Join me in welcoming Jack to Web 2.0.
Hey, John.
Welcome. I'll sit right here on the couch there, and I'll sit here.
All right.
So, have a seat. In preparation for this, we were talking earlier, and your office was kind enough to get some stats. And I want to throw up a graph here that is for the two major holding companies under you, MediaVest and Starcom. Is that right? Did I get that right?
You're right.
And can we pop that up on the screen, guys? And this, as I understand it, is not your internal data, but rather a tracking firm that watches what you guys do. It's hard for you guys to see, but you can see the orange and the black. That's TV as a percentage of that $45 billion. And then that red is print, and that little itty-bitty slice over there is internet, 4%. Now, we were talking backstage, and you said it's actually more than that now?
Yeah, what I have to say is, we're not allowed by law or restrictions to publish and promote our actual data like this as ad spend. So this comes from the only global resource in the industry called RECMA. And I won't stand, it's not important that you know how they get their data. I'm not 100% sure either.
That sounds like the marketing industry.
But this is how RECMA reports the split of our ad spend. I can give you a couple points just to give you an indication, other than having me already on the back foot in this conversation, to give you proof points of why that number is truly underrepresented. First of all, I think that number is about what the reality was 3 years ago when I was asked to speak at a Yahoo Global Sales Conference. And if there are people now from Yahoo in the audience, if you remember, you can verify, I think my number at that time was probably 4 or 5%. So obviously 3 years have gone by, and that number is a multiple of that now in behalf of the media businesses alone. And then when you put on some of our other acquisitions, you put Digitas as part of the Publicis Group family and part of VivaKi, which we'll probably touch on later, you start to see a number that is considerably larger. Maurice Levy, my boss and chairman of the Publicis Group, has, when he was announcing third quarter results, I believe he quoted a number that said that the Publicis Group was approaching or a little in excess of 19% of its total activity now was attributed to online, digital, internet space. And he's also has a commitment and a goal for all of us that by 2010, as evolving and making the Publicis Group the human digital agency, he wants that number to increase to 25% by the end of 2010. And I think we're on that glide path.
Well, that's good news. But let's talk about, your clients are amongst the largest companies in the world. Certainly, the Procter and Gamble, the GM, Coke, Kraft, Kellogg's. I mean, it's like a checkbox list of every major brand that has spent and literally created themselves through television. Mm-hmm. First of all, before we get into how they do that kind of a thing online, which I'm interested in, how are they feeling right now? Are they calling you up and going, Jack, cut it all, we're done?
Yeah, it's we certainly find ourselves in an interesting space, kind of an intersection of two opposing yet nerve-wracking realities. One is clients all clients to varying degrees. Everyone has concerns about this economy and this marketplace, domestically and globally, and that concerns occasionally, maybe a little bit more than occasionally now, can represent itself in terms of I need to make adjustments in my originally planned ad spend and marketing communications budget. But on the other side, those same clients and many others like them that aren't our clients know that spending, maintaining brand identity and spending during a time of a recession is an equally important aspect to keep in mind. So, what we find ourselves in is a place that is doing our best to navigate them through in terms of being fiscally responsible to their stakeholders, as well as at the same time protecting the brand for the immediate and the long term. And so that juggling or that navigation really does vary by client, by category, and certainly therefore by the kind of media mix that we attempt to apply to solve their problems and get us through what is going to be an interesting year in 2009. It's no secret that clients that we have in the automotive space, in the financial space, they're taking some pretty significant hits, and it's written about. So there's no need to elaborate in front of this audience.
So we don't have to bring up GM.
Not right now, but
So I just won't bring up GM.
No, not now, but I'm still got a new SRX this fall, and I think the business will, they will persevere, and I think the management team, et cetera, I've got tremendous confidence and optimism with them. So, but right now times are hard.
Yeah.
I think other categories and other clients. I mean, if I spoke to maybe the other end of the spectrum, where Walmart as a client is obviously showing, fairly good and significant business
Walmart
increases.
seems to like a recession.
It's, everyday low prices it seems to be a pretty powerful message with resonating with consumers these days. So you've got different mixes, but John, I would say that what's at our disposal to answer those questions is that the clients that do need to dial back some are going to start dialing back and becoming more specific, whether that be geographically or demographically or target-wise, and then therefore their use of various media is going to change. Clients on the in the other side are looking to are going to be still driving long-term brand identity and improvement. I mean, I think the one thing that sticks in clients' minds, whether you have to elect or you elect to make a cutback or not, is that there was a Millward Brown study, as well as a number of articles written from the Harvard Business Review to whoever you might read, that talks about the importance of advertising during a recession. And those that, I think Millward Brown said about 60% of those who go dark for a period because of a recession end up damaging some measurement or brand metric based upon the scaling and polling they do. There's other case studies, a couple, that include some of our clients over time that have advertised, like Kellogg's, who will advertise ongoing and through a recession, and on the end of the day, a lot of that decision has been attributed to significant share gains for them in their respective categories.
That's what I was going to ask about, is increasing share when media becomes cheaper. And I think, it's interesting, you have a front row seat for the development of, you have 3 or 4 companies, if you include Facebook, MySpace, AOL, Yahoo, and Google, and then you have 5 companies that, and there's a lot more beyond them, but 5 major companies that are trying to build soup to nuts advertising platforms for online, right? That want to come to you and say, we have the answer for you and for your clients. First of all, before we get into some of the details of those platforms and what you think about them, because we've heard from Jerry, we've heard from Mark, and we'll hear from others. What is it on sale right now? Is the internet a deal? Are the numbers going down? Are you guys getting better prices?
I think I don't know if I'd ever calibrate the power of the value of the internet on price or on CPM or maybe even on cost per click. I do think that what I would say is that almost across the board, our clients, those advertisers, whether they are exploring downsizing of ad spend at the moment or not, all of them are truly conscious and interested and aggressively asking our operations to more rigorously incorporate various online forms of media into their media mix. And I think it's simple for them. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the most targeted, the most specific in terms of precision placement we can give them. It's efficient and it's measurable, and it's measurable in a way that other mass media are still trying to find their way against, which is measuring on what matters to our clients and advertisers, measuring intent to purchase, measuring interest in the products, ultimately measuring sales outcomes. And only the online industry can really do that best. And that's a powerful attraction to us and the clients we represent. And I think that's why you'll continue to see, regardless of the category, you'll see our client advertisers showing greater and greater real interest, not just tell me more to make me smarter, but you'll start seeing it as part of their overall media mix. They totally buy into and understand the notion that there needs to be a balance now of, pardon me, not only brand building the way we traditionally know it to be, but also of customer acquisition and retention.
How do you, I want to get back to this because, first of all, in harder times, and Google was born, obviously it was born in great times, 98, 99, those were wee-haw years, but it became known as a powerhouse in a recession. In 2001 to 2003 is really when it took off and got that, consolidated its base. But it was a direct response and remains a direct response, sort of, you pay when you click, and you pay as you get a customer, which is quite a model, quite compelling model for advertisers.
Yes.
But in a time when things are bad or seem to be getting bad, there is a knee-jerk response, and particularly with the internet, to say, well, I need to justify this against measured success rates like clicks or cost per lead or cost per acquisition. How do you build a brand online?
A big and good question, I guess. I think part of the way we build a brand isn't much different than any other more traditional or mass media channels in terms of making sure that we understand who the target consumer is and that we are truly understanding what motivates them, what they care about. Because at the end of the day, if we lose track of that, or any of you lose track of that on what people care about and what they're interested in, you don't have a very good business model, because no one's going to go to your site or use your or visit you. In the same time, no one's really going to take our client's message and embrace it and understand it and take action against it.
Right.
And I think that as I think there are ways that we're going to, and we're learning how to use various powerful online techniques, whether it be search. There's a high degree of interest among our clients in social networks in terms of not only how can we become a legitimate part, how can the brand become a legitimate part of those communities and those conversations, but also how do people even talk about my particular product and service? What's their language? What are their attitudes about me? Because there's going to be some powerful learning in terms of what the messaging content creation can gain from those insights from those communities.
I'm fascinated by what you just said. The idea that, I think the Clue Train Manifesto, over a decade ago came out and said, markets are conversations. Hey, brand advertisers, stop yelling at us. Stop trying to convince us or trick us or cajole us into doing something, and join us in a conversation. Social networks sort of have risen up to prove at least one half of that. What I find interesting is that brands increasingly are becoming almost publishers, actors in this narrative, as opposed to sort of these guys over here who present a narrative, right? In other words, Oprah, and then there's a break, and there's an ad, and then Oprah comes back. it almost feels a little bit like the initial soap operas, which many of your clients were responsible for creating, in that they kind of listened, said, I wonder in this new medium what kind of programming consumers are interested in. Right. Perhaps we should help create it. Are you seeing your clients starting to think about things in that way online?
Beyond think about it. I think, and I won't rattle off all the examples I could give you, but from packaged goods to even to financial services, I'd say any of our clients who have any experience at all in online, and that means most of them do today, it's much more than buying a pod, a spot, or a banner for them. It's much more than even buying keywords for search. They are actively looking to be partners in the content creation process. I think that's the challenge for the creative agencies that sit in my group, to be honest with you, is that part of it will be how do you bring big and powerful ideas and those essences into a much more intimate conversation, and one that isn't, you use the soap opera analogy. I would hope that we've learned a lot since the 30 or 40 years when that first happened, and we're much more delicate and respectful to people as viewers, whether they be online or offline. But I understand your point, and yes, we are moving into that area. Put it as part of the blur that a lot of my peers and coworkers talk about, is clients want to navigate the blur, and that blur is all about what's advertising and what's entertainment or information content. Mm-hmm. Where did the media placement begin and stop, and where did the creative messaging begin?
What do you make of television? I think it's very clear has become event-driven. You've got niche television, which is, there's just a cable show for anything and everything, right? And so you can kind of buy your niches. But increasingly, the idea of building a big brand in television comes down to American Idol or the Super Bowl, and what I've noticed about American Idol is it seems to be Coke. You know what I mean? The product placements and the integrations are getting to the point where, do you think that can ever go too far?
Oh yeah, and with due respect to my client Coca-Cola, I think you do have to be careful. I guess I want to take a step back from your comment. Sure. about big reach TV events. There's certainly a place for them. Back in the day, that's how I was taught how you selected and bought TV. The bigger the rating on whatever adults or men or women or what have you. That's how I was taught, and then you just paid the lowest cost per thousand against some Nielsen demographic currency. That was the business, and I don't think that's the business anymore. Including TV. I think TV is going to, if it doesn't already, look more and more like the online experience that I have as a consumer and a user, and I think that's just fine. I think it isn't about the size of the rating anymore that makes something. I mean, we tactically still buy some of those. American Idol, it might be one of them for Coca-Cola, the Academy Awards, the Super Bowl. But that isn't what TV is anymore. It is becoming much more personalized, much more specialized, if you will. And I think that's just fine, because that is the way we're going to plan and place television. It's not going to be on ratings of adults and men, women, whatever, moms. It's going to be on more richly and precisely defined target groups, just like you know them to be online. And we are going to be as cognizant of composition of such people that watch that show, and we're going to be as interested in the contextual relevance and the environment in which those messages are being seen than we are the average size of the rating. Because at the end of the day, what my folks do for a living is they know how to reaggregate like people, in terms of passions beyond demographics, and they know how to reaggregate the shows they pick to get to the reach clients want. And so it's a different model. When you said American Idol, you asked me that on a comment before we even got together, and the fact is American Idol's gone down 10% year on year for the last 3 years. So at what point does it not become Powerful. Or in my household, Family Guy is considered a major hit. And it is appointment television. It's appointment on a lot of platforms and media. So just because it's not, it doesn't have to just be on broadcast. It can be across multiple screens.
Yep. So television basically becomes an application of the internet.
Absolutely. And I think that that's how I see it. I think that we're not afraid of it. I think it represents opportunity because, at the end of the day, what a lot of folks have heard me say in our own operation is that clearly for me, the paradigm, the operational paradigm has flipped. As I said, I was taught 20, 30 years ago that the name of the game was broadcast television. It was high ratings and low cost per thousand. And
that was the Mad Men era? Is that?
Oh, yeah, do I look that old? We post Mad Men, but
there were still a few martinis in the office.
Exactly. Well, maybe a couple. But now it's all instead of this, many to find the few that care. Now it's about we pretty much know the few that care, or we have a very good idea because we have so much more data about them, and some of that data, thank you, comes from online and the internet. And now that few can be few to few. It can also be few to many ultimately. But the whole model's flipped to where it isn't about low cost per thousand. It's about waste-free communication and against a much more precisely and richly defined target group of users, which is very unique client by client.
Yeah, it did change as client to client.
Right.
Now, we don't have a lot of time, and if people have questions, please come up. I want to ask you about the largest non-media company in the universe that has a lot of media revenue, Google. Google is and Publicis announced a big partnership. Was it earlier this year?
Yes.
Why?
I think that I give you a number of reasons, but I would say, first of all, the Publicis Group, we operate on a basis of going to find the smartest people we can find in behalf of supporting and helping our clients' businesses. And I don't think anyone in the room, even if you're a competitor of Google, wouldn't say that those folks are among the smartest and also equally best resource possibly. So I think part of it is why not partner with one of the best new age media owners in the industry, or technology suppliers, or portals, or whatever you want to call them. So part of it was about partnering with the best and in preparation for not only catching up to the new age, but trying to get ahead of it.
Are you a little bit worried, however, about Google in terms of perhaps the disintermediation of some of the things that you're doing? I mean, Garrick has been quoted many times as saying that advertising is mainly a waste of money.
I'm not terribly worried about being disintermediated as long as I feel like that my guys' voices are being heard, and I pretty much am comfortable with that fact. I mean, I worry that if myself, my coworkers, and in fact my peers that are in competitive media agencies are not paying proper attention, I do worry that certain processes that work very well in the online space could find themselves into other media, buying, selling practices and processes that may not be in the best interests of our clients. But you know what? It's as long as there's a dialogue between ourselves and Google on that respect, I'm cool.
So you don't see them as a frenemy the way Martin Sorrell at WPP does?
Maurice has taught me not to talk about competitors. So, but I would tell you is I would go back to what our philosophy's been, which is, I guess in the language of this room, open source, and find the best and make it available. And applications is what gives our clients competitive and proprietary advantage, not necessarily whether you own the information or you own the technology and the like. And so it's in that regard that we partner with Google. But we have partnerships with MSN and AOL and Yahoo as well. And I think each one of those partnerships, knock on wood, is going to allow our clients to be, hopefully first and have true competitive advantage.
There's been a question here.
First, well, two questions. One, what happened the first week of October? Did the phones just stop ringing, and have they started ringing again in ad land? So that's part one. And then part two, I'm just curious. You commented about the reaggregation of television audiences, and in part of doing that, you clearly created a decent amount of media waste. But then you went on to talk about one-to-one or one-to-few. Mm-hmm. How far from an infrastructure standpoint are we to this point till we get there in TV? I mean, when you see DVR penetration 5 years from now being 75%, clearly, I guess what is the mechanism that you can actually see that to fruition?
Yeah, if I understand your first question, I answer that one first. What I would say is no, the phones really didn't, at least in the whatever agency or whatever country I was in, didn't ring off the hooks at that moment. And I think that, and it's a good thing, because if they did, it meant that we weren't doing our job as our clients' strategic counselors and guides as it relates to the investment of their marketing and ad spend. So, God willing, we would have had plans. You see some things coming, and you have anticipated, and you've got proper cautions and mechanisms in there so that you can move, adapt, and be suitably flexible. So business goes on, and we continue to talk. Nothing went dark, and the phones didn't go dead. And it sounds terrible, but in a way, especially this kind of economy and situation, in my mind, only accelerated this paradigm flip that I was talking about, and that's all good. I'm good with this. I think I'm happy to be in a place where I don't have to, to have to rationalize with the unrationable, which was, what about the half of the American Idol audience that wasn't in your target profile, Coca-Cola, that you paid for? What about that? I'm looking forward to a world where it's all a lot more precise and a lot more personalized. And I think that, as a result, we'll be in a much better place, and we'll be doing a better job for our clients. To your second question about how far are we from a place of waste-free video and television advertising, I don't know that. If it was up to the buyer side alone, the planner and the buyer side alone, I think we'd try to be there by now. But there's a lot of, and if it was up to you in the room, it's not technology isn't holding it up. I saw addressable TV experiments 20 years ago. So it's going to take a little while for the model to change. I think that we're moving rapidly to that space. I think in a matter of, if I had to predict, which I'm bad at, I would say that it's certainly I could see inside 3 to 5 years that the way we plan and buy television is going to look an awful lot like how we plan and buy online media today.
Great. We got time just for one more quick question here.
Sure, simple question. Is there blood in the water on media pricing this year? As a large media buyer, how much opportunity do you see to hammer on pricing, both online and TV and print?
Blood in the water. I do think there is opportunities out there. And yes, and we were prepared. I would say, by and large, we were prepared to exploit those opportunities. I don't think, I don't want to sound like we're so cool that we had it figured out, but we knew enough that the market, that we were headed toward a bit of a slowdown. We never knew it was going to look like it did. So we are in a place where we've got money held back to take advantage of various opportunities, offline and online. In a weird way, some of our clients are going to, one of the media forms that are really taking the biggest hits in terms of rate of decrease, based on what I see, is the local broadcast, local radio, local TV, newspaper. And a lot of times, in tough recessionary environments, one of the things we will direct our clients to do is to geographically focus and go protect their best markets or exploit local markets where they think they can gain an advantage over a competitor during a recessionary time. So, I think you'll see us move into local broadcast. I think you'll see us move into opportunistic national cable buys and national broadcast. Sure. The funny thing is, and will there be opportunities in online? I'm sure there will. It's just that I feel like I'm talking about a bit of apples and oranges because the currency for a lot of that mass media, unfortunately, is still demographically driven. And when we're in the online space, it's much richer, much more precise, much more specific client by client. So it's not necessarily an efficiency thing as versus a results thing. And so at the end of the day, if we can get better results because of this economy, because of what we do on the online space, great. But I don't necessarily think we gauge it out of the box as a basis of, we got 4 more insertions here when what used to cost us for 2.
Right. All right. Well, we're running out of time. We need to take a break soon. So, Jack, thank you very much for coming to Web 2L. Very much appreciate that.